Everybody in the courtroom. The Max Schardt cross-examination. Let's go.
Mr. Sprinkel, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. And of course we know each other. You know who I represent, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He gave us the meme.
I want to start out by talking to you about the jail calls and specifically my client, Shannon Stillwell's jail calls.
Okay.
I believe you testified that you downloaded, you estimated, I believe, 700?
So, yes, the batch that I downloaded from 2015, maybe the calls descended into 2016 as well. I don't remember. I think it was around 700 audio files. So that would represent 700 calls. It's not 700 exactly, but that's what I remember.
I understand. And do you have a ballpark of how many you reviewed?
I didn't review all of them.
Okay.
And a matter of fact, I probably reviewed like maybe 50 to 75.
Okay. And regardless of how many you personally reviewed, when you downloaded them, they are saved onto your computer, your hard drive.
All
correct?
of them are saved, yes.
Okay, and they would have been passed on to the prosecution team in this case, so they could review all of them, correct?
That's correct.
All right, cool. All right, I just want to, your job actually with the DA's office right now is you do prelims. You cover prelims for cases, correct? Amongst other things.
That's correct.
All right. And I just want to unpack a little bit about what you said about preliminary hearings, is when I say prelims, preliminary hearings. You said typically a lead detective testifies.
That's right.
Okay, and you said hearsay is allowed, meaning the lead detective is allowed to testify about what other people said.
That's correct.
Okay. And you are aware that jail call that was played that was tough to hear, a little bit low, that was from November 19th, 2015, correct?
That's right.
All right. And November 19th, 2015 is the day that Shannon Stillwell had his prelim, correct?
That's what I recall, yes.
Okay. And that's why you had interest in that call.
That's right.
All right. And that call was made later in the day after Mr. Stillwell would have returned back to the jail from his preliminary hearing.
That's right.
All right. In Mr. Stillwell's preliminary hearing specifically, I know you said lead detectives generally are the only ones that testified. Detective Thorpe testified in that preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Kenneth Copeland did not testify.
No.
Demekion Garlington did not testify.
No.
Quindarius Zachary did not testify.
No.
Okay. And I know it's hard to hear, but we're going to bring some volume to it, okay? Mr. Stillwell on that call said, I just went to court and they let everything out.
That sounds right, yes.
Okay, and that was after Detective Thorpe testified, correct?
That's right, after he heard Detective Thorpe's testimony. Correct.
Okay, he said they threw out, and it was tough to hear, so I want to make sure we're clear. On that call, he said they threw out Yak, Duop, Nard, correct?
I don't recall that they threw out.
And I'm not suggesting throughout the case. I'm saying throughout the names.
That sounds right. I definitely heard him mention those names.
Okay.
So I took it to mean maybe like their names were mentioned, maybe.
Right. And because it was hard to hear, I'm just trying to make it clear. He's not saying, and nowhere in that call did he say he was with those people or anything like that day.
No.
Okay. And
you go.
again, those names were mentioned by Detective Thorpe, correct?
That's right.
All right, cool. And he was, well, you can't testify to his mind state, but in that call, he said F word D, Woody, and the other D, correct?
I don't know. Yeah, that's not a verbatim quote. It's pretty close. I mean, I think the spirit of his comment was captured in your quotation there.
Okay, and then he said them, F, N-words, know what is going on.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And then that's the case that was, that's the tape that was played in court today, but there are 8 other calls on that CD, correct?
Correct.
All right. You also listened in on another call that Mr. Stillwell had with that same young lady on November 23rd, 2015, correct?
I think so. That sounds right.
At 16:08, at 4:08 p.m.
That sounds correct.
All right. At 5:07 into that call, Mr. Stillwell says, N-words will say whatever, correct?
That sounds correct. I know that was the general spirit. I don't know if that's an exact quotation as to what he said.
Okay. At
Be a general
5:15 in
spirit
that
counter.
call, Mr. Stillwell said, they just trying to get the heat off their ass.
Oh, Schardt.
Again, that sounds like the general, that was something along the lines of what he said, that was the topic of conversation. I just can't say if that was a verbatim quote or not.
And again, Mr. Copeland at that time was facing federal and state charges.
That's right.
And Mr. Zachary, the other D, was facing charges related to the April 28th, 2015 shooting of houses, correct?
That's right.
All right. Mr. Stillwell in that November 23rd, 2015 call said, people will say anything to save their ass.
What's the best evidence? If Mr. Schardt would like to play the calls and.
Sustained.
Okay. I mean, it is in evidence, trying to save some time, but,
I appreciate that, but if there's a valid objection, I've got to sustain it.
okay. All right.
Well, I'll withdraw my date.
Thank you.
Oh,
I twisted
okay.
his arm. Also in that call, and this is just one more, and then we'll move on. Mr. Stillwell said, they will sit right there and lie.
I don't recall that exact utterance being made, but it wouldn't be inconsistent with the general tone and of the call and the other things that he was saying.
Okay, cool. All right. Regarding Mr. Copeland's cell records and the plotting you did, let me get this right. 722 is the 911 call.
Yes.
Okay. You said at 7:26, you have Mr. Copeland headset pinging on the tower. So 4 minutes later, he's pinging on the tower at the Green Store, or in the vicinity of the Green Store.
That is correct. It had moved north to that tower, so it was actually south of that tower seconds prior to, but yes.
Well, you don't actually, cell phone records aren't like a chart where you see, for instance, a cursor moving through a map, are they? You don't see real-time movements during a call, do you?
No.
You just get spots in certain points in time
Yes, that's
when cell calls are initiated.
That is, well, you get the tower and the antenna utilized by the handset at the time of the call. It's a very big area.
But just at the time, right, vague area, but also just at the time of the initiation of the call.
Correct.
Okay. And so 4 minutes after the purported time of the 911 call, that headset is utilizing the tower near the Green Store.
That's right.
Okay. And we also, the truth is, we can speculate. We don't know how much time passed. We know that 911 call was made at 7:22, but we don't know how much time passed between the shooting and the 911 call, do we?
No, I can't say exactly. From what I recall, it's pretty quickly, but I can't say the exact seconds.
Well, I mean, people, before they call 911, they can try to hide guns, right?
There's any number of things people can do before they call
Right,
911.
they can try to get guns before they call 911.
The possibilities are endless as to what somebody could do before
Right.
they call 911.
And some people will do certain things before they call the police to where they're at.
No objection. Speculation.
Sustained.
Well, the bottom line is we don't know how much time passed. So we're dealing with inexact times.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think we're back to, all right, we just caught up to real time.
And you would agree that the Green Store is within a minute drive of the barbershop?
It's pretty close. I don't know. I can't say if it's a minute, but it's less than a mile away.
Less than a mile away. Thank you. All right. Finally, I'm just going to ask you about one other matter. Javaris Bradford has come up, a.k.a. Tudor, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's the owner of, through your investigator, he's the owner of the Pontiac at the Texaco.
Yeah, from what I recall, he was the registered owner.
Right, and he came up in your investigation, and the fact that Pontiac was on the video piqued your interest.
That's what I said, yep.
All right. At some point in November of 2018, he wasn't charged in 2015.
He wasn't.
Okay. In November of 2018, he was still in the community, correct? He wasn't in jail or anything.
That's right.
All right, and you determined that you wanted to speak to him.
I did.
All right, and did you reach out to him?
I don't think I reached out to him. It was likely a DA's office investigator. Somebody reached out to him.
Okay, and was he asked to come in? Was he compelled to come into the DA's office? How did that work?
I believe we gave him a grand jury subpoena, if I remember correctly.
Okay, you issued a grand jury subpoena for him to come in and speak to you?
Well, the grand jury was in session that day. Having never spoken to him, I wanted to speak with him before I potentially put him up before the grand jury, and I did end up speaking with him, and at that point, I determined that not to put him up.
Okay, that was November 13th, 2018, correct?
That's correct.
And you had a meeting with him in a conference room in the DA's office, correct?
Right, it was on video. I have it right here, actually.
Yes. And present were you, Investigator Thorpe, at some point came into the meeting, correct?
Investigator Thorpe, I think he was present the entire meeting.
Okay.
It's on video, but from what I remember, he was there the entire time.
Okay, and then I don't want to mess up the young lady's name, so I'm not even going to try, but there was an investigator with the DA's office. Could you say her name correctly?
Cynthia Nwakocha.
Nwakocha.
Cynthia, first name, last name, Nwokocha, I believe.
Okay, thank you. And Javaris Bradford showed up, correct?
That's correct.
He did not have an attorney,
He did not.
and he showed up to the conference room without an attorney, correct?
Objections to relevance, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. For this meeting, you had video from the Texaco, or was it stills or video?
There were definitely stills. I think it may have, I can't recall if I played motion pictures of the surveillance video or I just had stills. He was at the very least showed still images.
And you told him, in fact, that you were investigating the homicide of Donovan Thomas.
I'm going to have to research this point as to what Mr. Sprinkel told Mr. Bradford.
Sustained.
To what? I'm not asking what Mr. Bradford told Mr. Sprinkle. I'm asking what Mr. Sprinkle told Mr. Bradford.
Oh, okay. Overruled.
Still an adequate statement.
Well, y'all can ask him, he's right here.
Okay. So you told him that there was evidence against him in this case.
I don't recall exactly what I said. I bet I likely said that to him. I would go so far as to say as yes, I did. That would
Report. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yes, I'm sure I said that to him because
Okay.
there was.
Okay. And you wanted him to speak to you about who was at the Texaco, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you told him that your supervisor wanted to charge him, but you were holding things off to give him a chance to talk.
Hearsay,
Yeah, I mean, it is.
all.
Sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Was your supervisor Pat Dutcher at the time?
He was in.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
All right, so we're doing an approach. Oh, Sprinkle. Also, huge shout out to the chat. That was great earlier when, Sprinkle says he put 9 of these calls and we did the exercise where we said, let's name his greatest hits mixtape. You guys, hilarious. Tons of hilarious comments. You guys are, again, just so quick with thinking of references. That was a great moment. Let's see. Norma Jean says they don't want Gaither back. So going back to this, reconsider the dismissal of Dennis. They're arguing that by having Dennis gone, the judge is preventing them from bringing in evidence in this case. So why can't they just bring in the evidence through Gaither? But Norma Jean says they don't want Gaither back. Her quote, relations might come up, and there goes that plan. Chaos, this cannot be real. And I kind of agree. I think if it were up to me and my choices were maybe Thorpe, Dennis, and Gaither, I think maybe Dennis might be the one I'd want the most of the three. What do you guys think in the chat? Between those three choices, who would you, and those are your only three choices, if you could only pick one, who would be your choice as the state to bring in anything else you might need to bring in of those three only? Because me personally, I'd say Dennis. For entertainment's sake, I might say Thorpe. Great point here, Norma Jean. Thank you for the 5. Now, Miss AB says, that's my birthday, December 10th. So that's the Steele appeal date in the Georgia Court of Appeals. So I'm assuming that there will be YSL trial that day, and we'll do like an evening happy hour watch of that session, or maybe during the lunchtime break. So when we do that happy hour watch, we'll also celebrate Miss AB. So that's going to be a great time. Danielle Judge says, over 4K in here and only 1K thumbs up. Show your love. It's free 99. Thank you so much for your support, Danielle. And especially while we're on one of these breaks. It's a great time to do that. LP says, please read the motion again. I was late. If you follow, like if you scrub backwards, you can find it in the stream, but I also clipped it out separately. So there's a separate video on this channel if you just want to look at that motion to reconsider Dennis. All right, they're both laughing, so let's see what happens. Thank you, LP.
Your Honor, based on the court's ruling, I do not have any more questions, and I'll note with like 50 minutes to spare.
That is correct. All right, is any other defense attorney going to have questions for Mr. Sprinkel?
Briefly.
Okay,
Briefly.
all right, I think we can fit in another one or maybe two.
All right, Doug Weinstein Cross.
Or